mine? Well, it's kind of a strange story because I retired from my job at 30 years and I think, what am I going to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to go rock collecting all over the country, all places I've never been able to go. So I've been going to Grays Mountain, Georgia a whole bunch. Has anybody been to Grays Mountain? Great place to collect. Oh my God, yes. Great place. So I stopped and picked a friend of mine up on January 1st of 2016. We went down to Grays Mountain. While we were down there, we got a call saying that the real mine was going to be sold. And if we wanted to collect there again, I had never been there, but my friend who was with me, he loved the place. I was like, sure, I'll go back with you. So we went back to the real. We decamped from, this is kind of coincidental, Lincolnton, Georgia is where Grays Mountain is. Lincolnton, North Carolina is where the real mine's at. The man who runs Grays Mountain is named Junior Norman. Right next to the mine is Lake Norman. Both men are junk dealers. So I thought I was in the right place at Grays Mountain until I came to the real mine. Then I realized that this is where I was supposed to be. So we decamped. We were living in Junior's backyard in Georgia. We decamped on January 12th of 16, and we set up camp January 13th in North Carolina, in the woods at the mine.
I was home.
I told her I'd be home 20th, so I had planned 20 days to go digging. But we had heard the owner of the mine at the time told us that James Goodnight, the richest man in North Carolina, was going to buy the mine and shut it down. So I called my wife and said, hey, honey, is it okay if I stay until the mine's sold and then I'll come home? She's like, sure, I understand that. So January 13th became February 13th. Mine still hasn't sold. Well, I'm still living in the woods digging, finding great stuff, having a great time. Turns into March 13th. I'm still there digging.
I did visit.
Yeah. She finally came down to visit. Like, okay, what's going on here? So the guy who owns the mine, or used to own the mine, who I bought it from, Francis, is a very elderly man. The mine's been in their family for 70 years, and, so he's quite old. And I was the oldest member of the group of people that were digging with me. So he would come down and talk to me, and the young guys would say, "How you going to have an old man talk?" Well, he came down to see me on March 17th of 16. And he goes, "Hey, I need to talk to you." I'm like, uh-oh. You know, and then he takes me aside and pulls me aside. And I'm like, "What's the matter? The mine's sold?" He goes, "Well, no." I'm like, "Okay, what's up?" He goes, "Well, you love this place." I said, "Man, I'm having a great time. Who could not? You're finding beautiful specimens. You're camping in the woods. I mean, every person's, fantasy about rock collecting." He goes, "Well, you want to buy it?" Yeah. And I'm like, I'm retired. I hadn't planned on buying the Amethyst mine when I retired. I travel the country and collect minerals. He goes, "No, you really love it. I really love what you're doing. And do you want to buy it?" And I said, "Well, how much?" And he named out a price and said, "Hey, I'm retired. I'm retired. I'm not working for a living anymore. I'm retired." But my wife and I have a thing. You have to understand an opportunity when it's presented to you. And we have a golden rule about a price break, what we would consider a price break on something if we're going to make an offer. So I quickly calculated the number and I offered it to him. He grabbed my hand and said, "Sold." I went, uh-oh. He said, "Oh shit." Oh. It was a Frenchman. I'm like, "Oh my God." So I walked back to camp, and he happily jumps in his truck and off he goes. And the guy's like, "What's up?" I said, "Well, the mine's sold." And they go, "Oh, so we got to leave?" "Yeah, everybody's got to go." No more camping. Mine's going to be sold. Everybody's got to go in the morning. This is our last night here, so we'll have a good time. Everybody's got to go in the morning. Not tell them that I bought it.
Nor me yet.
So I got on the phone and I called my wife and said, "Hey, honey, She's like, what, did mine sell? I'm like, well, yeah. She goes, well, you're coming home? I said, well, not exactly. I bought it. And she's like, don't you think you should ask first? I said, it didn't happen that way. Believe me, it didn't happen that way.
And I saw him 6 years later at our house in Virginia. Literally 6 years later.
What?
When you buy a mine, are you buying the land around it?
Yep.
Is it
In North Carolina.
10 acres.
I see.
Bought 10 acres, yeah, mineral rights included.
I see.
Yeah, it's secluded out in the woods. It's right between Lincolnton and Dallas in Denver. It's like a triangle. 6.8 miles to each city. So I'm right in the dead zone between the cities. So sometimes I have a signal, sometimes I don't. But that's how one becomes owner of an amethyst mine. And
A handshake.
I can't say it hasn't been the adventure of my life.
Were your numbers right?
Do I?
Were your numbers right?
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, the numbers are right, yeah. Well, then I had to figure out who I could call because I wasn't that liquid, right? Who's that liquid, right? You know, like that. So I called a friend of mine up who is that liquid. He fronted me the money, but it's been an adventure of a lifetime because I get to do things that most people can't even contemplate or even fathom. One thing that I don't recommend is what I do is I work the mine by myself. The golden rule in most rock collecting trips is you don't go by yourself because there's no one there to help you. Well, I work every day by myself, weeks and weeks at a time by myself, under that premise that no one's coming to get me. And you have to work in that regard that no one's coming to get you. So you have to work accordingly. But I call my wife in the morning when I get up, call her at lunchtime, and call her at night before I go to bed. You know, so she knows I'm okay. But it's been a great honor and privilege to own the mine. I didn't know what I was going to do when I retired, and the universe picked it for me. And be able to drop into Tucson out of the blue with things that no one's ever seen and never heard about. And it's really cool to be able to blow the mineral world away when you show up with stuff like this at Tucson and everybody from the biggest dealers in the world are coming on, where did you come from? And Mineralogical Record comes in and does what's hot in Tucson, what's new in the mineral world. We put in, you want to bring up Smithsonian? I called them Smithsonian because I was curious what they had from the real mine. And they're like, well, we have nothing. I said, really? I said, would you like to see some stuff? So you probably know Dr. Post. So I talked to Jeffrey, and I went up to his office in the Smithsonian, and I took 13 specimens with me, because 13 is my lucky number. And went to his conference room and showed him. He's like, wow. He goes, that's beautiful. He goes, well, what do you want to do with them? I said, well, I didn't plan on going home with them. And he goes, well, you know, we can't use taxpayer money to buy minerals. We can only use donated money because they're not allowed to use government funds to buy minerals. And I kind of got in trouble because I said, okay, well, how about trading? Because back in the day when I went there with Scott and those guys, they would trade with the Smithsonian. So they were kind of worried about how I knew about that. But I said, well, no. I said, you can have any three you want. So that was a great thing because all of a sudden they're not just Dr. Post, but then I don't know if you know Mike Wise. Mike was in there, and Paul was in there, and Roger, and all these people were all of a sudden in looking at all my specimens at the Smithsonian. Huh? So those are the three they picked. This one's actually out on display in the Natural History Museum in the mineral collection. And again, when you can take and go and visit something you collected out of the ground, and it's sitting in the best museum in the world. What more is there? What more? I mean, when we finally, it went out, Smithsonian is very funny. I get this casual text, email from Mike Wise going, hey, thought you might want to know. It's a picture of my specimen out on display. You know. So it's been a great honor to be able to share this, and I work for a living, so it's not about the money, it's about the minerals and the experience and sharing it with the universe, because that's what I guess the universe wanted me to do. But these two traveled around with the Smithsonian's new acquisitions collection. The other was on permanent display, but so it has been very rewarding in that regard. But again, like I said, I 99% of the time I work by myself. Friends come and visit me once in a while. And if I know somebody's coming to visit me, I'll save things that I know I can't do by myself. Like, there was a specimen, a pocket I hit, it was a tube pocket, about 18 inches in diameter, about 8 foot long at a 15-degree angle. Well, it was underneath a 10-foot overhang. So by the time you're in the back of the pocket, you're under 18 feet of rock that's, 10 foot thick above you. And it's very unnerving. So you again, doing it by yourself, you're not, I only went in so far. But I knew I had help. So I was able to go to the very back of that pocket and just way in the back, under the water, in the mud, in the dark, just as deep as I could get. And my hand poked through some decayed layer, and all I could feel was crystals from my fingertips to my elbow. And I'm like, oh my God. Couldn't see it. All I could do is feel it with my fingertips, because it's in the dark, underwater, in the mud. And I backed out of there, and I just couldn't believe what I had felt. But that was on July 4th of 2016. That specimen did not come out of the ground until September 17th of 2017. It took me 14 months to dig and remove all the rock around it, so that it is now sitting in the Alvin Norville Museum in Tucson, Arizona, in the lobby in its own display case. And I am here talking to you. It is intact, and I have all my fingers.
And here he is contemplating on how to get that out safely. And that's what you do when you're by yourself. You make sure you sit your little tush down and think about those things, because if I get a phone call with anything other than I just hit a big pocket, it won't be pretty. So yeah. I didn't know if you had a video up here of you coming out of the ground.
It's on there somewhere.
Okay.
But that's the picture section, not the video section.
Oh, okay.
Are you mechanized, or are you doing everything by hand?
My mechanization is up here. I brought my electric jackhammer with me. That's normally what I use, because again, you're reading the rock, so you're digging for the intersection. There's a horizontal crack and there's a vertical seam where you're digging for the intersection where they meet. And you're peeling the rock apart accordingly. You must be able to learn to read. If you're going to field plate, you have to learn to read rock. It'll A, save your life, and B, you'll get better crystals. The reason it took me 14 months is because I knew I couldn't get into the back of that pocket and get it. There's just no way. So I had to take back, and I had to start way off to the side and work my way back around and down onto it to be able to get to it and get it out. So the best course is not always the most direct, straight course to it. Sometimes you have to start 5 feet over here and work your way in.
Do you have a picture of when you got it out?
Yeah, she's.
Is it under the video library?
That's it when it was under the ground. In the back of the hole, I was finally able to get a picture of it, but that's the front edge of it.
Oh, is it in this directory where you saved it? Sorry, folks.
How big is it?
It's bigger than this one. Yeah, plus it's on this matrix. So that's why I bought the, if you haven't seen this is a diamond chainsaw. Cuts granite like butter. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. $5,000 for the cost, $750 per blade. But the specimens are worth every penny because there's no way you can bang them free. So cutting them free is the way to do it.
What is the size of the area?
Do what?
My question, what's the size of the area? I guess that's it.
10 acres. That's just me because I got this out on matrix. I've been working for hours to bring it out on matrix, and I was just so happy. I was just like, put it on my chest, sit back and let out a deep breath. For now.
Sorry, I'm not sure you put everything.
There it is.
There it is.
So again, that's in the University. I gave that one to the University of Arizona because it's in Tucson, downtown Tucson, right? Has everybody ever been to the Tucson Mineral Show? Yeah. Incredible thing. Well, if you go next time, go to the new Albie Norville Museum in Tucson, and it's sitting in the lobby all by itself.
As soon as you walk through the doors.
Yeah, as soon as you walk in the door, it's a great. And again, it's a great thing because I gave it to them. I didn't sell it to them. I gave it to them, and they saw it, and they asked me if they would find a donor, and then I took it back to the mine. I'm like, damn, I wish I could just give it to them. And so I called them and gave it to them. But again, that took 14 months to get out. And this is what I felt when I could reach in there is from here to here is that long. So
It's a good day when he's bloody.
yeah, if you come to visit me and I'm soaking wet in sweat, covered from head to toe in mud, and got blood running from multiple spots on me, I'm having a really good day. I'm having a really good day. And if you want to be like that and have a good day, you're welcome to come visit me. Yeah, see, there's another one that came out.
That's huge. Is that the same one as in the
Yeah.
Tucson Museum? Yeah.
How many pounds do you get out over time? I mean, do you have somebody help you carry it or,
No,
no?
no, leverage. That's my poor St. Bernard. She comes and stays with me at the mine, and she lives down in the water ponds at the mine. Oh, she gives me a hard time. She'll bark and complain at me if I don't let her in the water.
But don't squat down on rocks and look at the little tadpoles in the water going, oh, honey, these are so cute. And then I stand up and I do a somersault into the water. And I have a husband running going, oh my God, you're dead. But I missed every rock. I don't know how, and it was cold. So,
So they're underwater?
no, but
Well,
the
we're
tadpoles
down
were.
below the water layer.
Yeah.
That's all groundwater infiltration overnight. The good people have dug there for 100 years. It used to be an old amethyst mine that Tiffany supposedly dug back at the turn of the century for gem amethyst for their jewelry. I found no artifacts that old, but this is a picture here. I call this is where no hoe's gone before because see these marks right here are from a track hoe. Those are teeth from a track hoe where they came digging through, trying to find something. Well, I'm pointing there because see I'm popped open a pocket right behind all those claw marks. So that's why I'm laughing because I'm in this huge pocket and you can see all the claw marks going up the rock face
Bless you.
because they were trying to machine dig. and they didn't read the rock, they were just ripping and tearing.
Bless you.
And they were just making grooves. And I came in, read the rock, and pulled the back of the pocket open, and it was great.
Why don't you just go through all the pictures quickly and
Yeah.
give us a little story on each one?
Quite a few pictures, but we could start.
Get started, man.
Till I don't do this for a living, right? Okay.
As you can see, this is an above ground, it's an open pit. So, and again, you can see how we bench back, because again, I'm by myself, so I have to bench everything back so that I won't get crushed by a landslide. I don't want to be Terry Ledford.
How much rock have you moved in the 7 or 8 years?
Well, last summer, I moved 635 yards of rock, to give you an idea of how much material I moved by myself. But again, I use the jackhammer and the saw, normal collecting tools, crack hammers, rock bars, 20-ton bottle jacks work good. You jack layers and spread them. But the main thing, if you want to collect crystals with no damage, you must use bamboo, chopstick. It doesn't break crystal tips. It doesn't scratch crystal tips. Every big crystal like this starts out as a thumbnail. You don't know how big it's going to be, so you don't want to go in there with a piece of steel and start probing around and prying, because you don't know. It could be something this big. It could be something bigger. You don't know. So when you go to your favorite Chinese restaurant, grab a whole handful, because they don't break crystals. They don't scratch crystals. You can't pry with them to break crystals. All you can do is gently dig around it.
And you're often not seeing it right on the surface like you do there. You're often, with your hands, learn to use your fingertips like your eyes. And James does not use gloves. You're not going to feel it with gloves. And I'm sure you all know the golden rule with mud.
Right, yes, you can't use gloves. If you're trying to feel a pocket, you cannot use gloves to collect, because when you feel a crystal face with your finger, you know what you're feeling. With a glove on, you don't know. And since you can't physically see them, you have to be like a blind person and use your other senses and extremities to be able to use those as your eyes to see what you're, and let your fingers translate to your brain what it's seeing. The other good trick is mud won't wipe off a rock. Mud will wipe right off of a crystal face. So if you're collecting crystals and you're not sure about something, just wipe it real quick with your finger and see if it's a crystal face. It'll tell you just like that. And if it smears, you might have an oxidation, and if it's still the right shape, you might want to save it. Because some things have oxidation, as the crystal you got. And it doesn't wipe off. But the general rule is mud will wipe off of a crystal face and won't wipe off the rock.
Oh, wow.
Honey?
Yeah, see, that's how they come out. That's just because what happens is they come up as a hydrothermal flow. They come up as bubbles in the solution, and wherever there's a pocket, a void, a bench that sticks out, the bubble gets trapped. When it's time, when the conditions are right, the crystal forms. Whoop. And they all grow from the ceiling, because that's where the bubbles are trapped, the solution bubbles. And they form on druzy quartz, real tiny little druzy quartz, which isn't very strong. So as they grow and that decays, these drop off. Whoop. So what happens is you'll find these all packed up in a log jam, but they'll all be buried in mud. And all you'll see when you break into a pocket is a little opening, maybe an inch at the very crown of the pocket where that hasn't filled in with mud. And when you find that, you break out your chopsticks and you start digging. And pretty soon it's like, oh, look what I found. It's like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Because they don't grow by themselves. If you find one, you're going to find 10. But yeah, see, that's...
Not your hands.
See, there's crystals right there.
And are
Honey?
the crystal, when you find a crystal, can you say that that's where the crystal formed, or are they moving around?
Oh, they're moving. So it's, well, in the alluvial decayed layers, they're moving. They're moving up and
But
down
is
the
there
seam.
like a source from which they are moving, or is it?
Well, it's in the seams, within the seam. Like the seam I'm working now is a 1 foot thick seam, completely full of mud, and it curves down like a windshield. So when I'm collecting those, I can only reach so far back into the pocket, because and you don't want to jerk them out because you'll break them, right? So you work and you feel and you dig them out. And then once you remove all you can reach, then if the pocket's shaped coming down like a windshield, you come down here and you take out the front and lower it. So then you can reach further back along that seam. And as you do that, you keep lowering the floor and keep going further back in. So right now, that hole is 14 feet deep. And at the bottom of that hole, there's a 12-foot hole that goes off to the side that still keeps going. And there's still crystals. It's just too unsafe now to go back down in there. So that's one of my goals this summer, is to pull the top off of that whole thing so that I can get back in there.
So what happened to your mine back in September when Helene dumped all that water in western North Carolina?
We had a fun time. Yeah, it rained, and the wind blew harder, and the wind blew even harder. Me and the dog turned the table over and hid against the wall of the of our structure, going, this is going to be bad. And we were just on the edge of the destruction zone. We flooded. Took me 3 days to pump water. I pumped almost 500,000 gallons of water out of the pit. But yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But it could have been a lot worse. We just lost a lot of trees and a lot of flooding. But it's never good when you know, because I have a little FM radio that I keep at the mine for weather. And it's never good when you hear that. Take cover now. Microburst detected. Iron station. Take cover now. It's never good when you hear that. And then you hear it coming. And then you're really like, oh crap.
One of the biggest things James learned and did right in the beginning was this tarp area back here, because as you
Yeah.
can imagine, being in North Carolina, it's kind of hot. So he implemented this. He runs the ropes from one side to the other and buys tarps and hangs them. And it's funny because his head might be touching it, then like in a week, it's suddenly 30 feet above him because he's moved that much rock. And it's like 20 degrees cooler there. So he's able to dig really almost all year long.
Right, I do dig all year long. And again, that's a 3/4 inch rope. I go buy spools of it, 600 foot time from Lowe's, and then buy 30 by 40 foot tarp. That's a 30 by 40 foot tarp. And I run that on carabiners on the 3/4 inch rope, and then have a tow line on each end. You can see the tow line coming out here, so that I can drag it back and forth along that line to shade me while I'm working. But what that does, even in 100-degree heat, it's big enough that it doesn't allow the rock underneath you to warm up. And since I always have water, it allows, and there's enough. Have everybody worked underneath a tarp where it's like right here above your head, and you feel the heat just beating down through you? Yeah, they're worthless. So they're high enough up that we can get a good breeze across that water and underneath the tarp. And the reason we knew it was working is because before we hung the tarps, no one had to pee. Didn't matter how much water you drank, didn't matter how much fluid you drank, you didn't have to pee. Just because you were that dehydrated. You just didn't. But once we hung the tarps, all of a sudden people started having to pee again. So we knew it was working. It's just one of those little things that you don't think about until you're there. Because again, most people in this room, a long collecting trip is a day, 2 days. Maybe you went on vacation for a week and went collecting somewhere. My collecting season now that I have changed a little bit. I go down the week after your show in March, and then I come back for her birthday, June 13th.
That's smart.
So I spend from the end of March until June down there. And then I stay through the 4th of July. Since we live on a mountain, you can see fireworks in every direction for 60 miles.
You want to come out to the house that day? 4-hour 4th of July show at the house.
And then I go back after the 4th of July, and I'll stay till November. And then I came back this year early because I wanted to vote. So I came back in early November to vote. But yeah, so you can see these horizontal layers in here, these crack layers. And those are all, according to Mike Wise when he came to visit me down there, him and Vicky, those are thermal cooling cracks from when the earth formed. I thought they were earthquake cracks. But Mike's like, no, those are from when the earth formed. I'm like, oh, okay, very cool.
So you don't have a retail side where you let people like pay to come in and dig?
No, because that's not what it's for.
Yeah. And what kind of protection do you have when you're not there?
Water. Everything's underwater.
Okay.
Yeah,
And we-
everything's underwater. Like when I go back in March, I'll spend a day pumping down the mine.
Plus, we have cameras and we have good neighbors.
And I have,
Yeah.
I have
And
neighbors that
So
watch
you
it.
have security.
The fact that he was there for 6 years and never left to come home, and I go down there every weekend, it taught that the people who might have had those ideas, that it wasn't a welcomed idea. But like James said in the beginning, it's not, the liability of having people coming in, giving you cash changes everything, and the dynamics of it. As James said, this was his retirement gift to himself of what he loves to do. I mean, and you can all watch him here and the emotions that come across. I mean, this club and the people he worked with back then, it brings tears to my heart, taught him all this. So this has just been an amazing journey for James. And so people that are friends or call and want to come out, that's a different story. That's what the universe is there for, to give back. And people that have a real interest and want to preserve and love what he's doing, because he doesn't take it for greed. He thanks the earth and brings it out. Like he says, it's like being a brand new mother. You're the first one to see that child coming into this world, and that's his blessing for this, and he takes care of
Well,
it.
you have to understand that most people don't have the luxury of time, right? It has to come out today. It has to come out by tonight. It has to come out by the weekends. I'm only going to be here for 2 days. But I have the luxury of being able to take 14 months to dig out one specimen. Because, and see, that's why, another reason why I really, if people come to help me, it's hard because I have to break them of that mentality. Going, look, it doesn't have to come out today. It might not come out while you're here. You can look at it, you can touch it, you can see it, but it might not come out today. It might not come out while you're here. It'll come out when it's time for it to come out, and not a second earlier. Whenever I hit a pocket, I always stop and savor the moment and let that adrenaline and that sensation come over you and dissipate so you don't do anything stupid. Again, you can see benching this out, benching these benches back as you go.
And all that there was as high as that back wall, right, honey?
Huh?
When you first started,
This
to
is-
give them
yeah,
an
it
idea
goes
of how
up to
much.
here. This is
Yeah.
all me digging this out.
Yeah.
Um,
And of the 10 acres, he only has, what, a half acre open?
Yep.
So there's
Yeah,
still,
I've only explored a half an acre out of the 10, so, people say what am I doing with you? Are you really working? I'm like, yeah, why am I doing it? I'm not rushing, there's no need to rush, you know, I mean, it's just, why are you gonna rush and break something as beautiful as this? Cause you know what you're gonna do as soon as you get this out? You're gonna dig right past where it was. You're gonna dig all the rock out around it from where it was, because you're trying to get to the next piece, so why not do that first and get it out complete? The other thing, if you're a field collector, you go collecting, if it's worth bringing home, it's worth wrapping in paper, bubble wrap, something. It just drives me to no end when I see people pitching stuff into buckets. They'll spend in time digging out a crystal and then they'll just pitch it into a bucket. It's like, what'd you do that for? You know, you spent all that time trying to get out the crystal and you pitched it into a bucket and didn't care anymore. What? I don't understand that.
that's more of the work that was done by other people right here?
No, that's me.
That's you? Okay.
Having been worked for over 100 years, that I have disregarded the top 6 foot of ground. As I say, anything I find in there is a bonus, because I'm assuming that has all been dug through at some point or another, because it's easy. And you know, so the easy stuff's gone, because that's how people are.
Okay.
Could you, this is I shared it with the club, I think after the show last year, and I'm still, the matrix that the crystals are coming out of,
Right.
Could you, for orientation, where is it calcite? What's the white?
Quartz.
Quartz.
Yeah.
So what is the configuration of the quartz from which the purple crystals are coming out? How do you would feel that also?
Yes, you would, right. Now, every one of our clusters that we grow down in North Carolina has a white center.
Okay, so that's,
And you can always tell the orientation at which it grows is which way the color is saturated and where it grew in that invert of the pocket, because the color is saturated.
it's,
These being heavy elements as in iron, aluminum, manganese, those are the contaminants that make it purple. Those are heavy metals. Well, since these grow as a fluid bubble from the ceiling, all that heavy metal contamination that makes it purple goes to the bottom. So, hence why the cores are all white. Doesn't matter how big they are, they're all white in the center.
So is there any difference as you go down in the layers?
Yeah.
How do the crystals change?
They change in size, color, and structure.
So what happens as you go further down? Are they bigger or smaller?
It depends on which side of the hole I'm on. There's one side of the hole where I've been hitting these really neat little baby scepters that are about this tall, where you can see the scepter, the stalk going up into the crystal. Those are coming off on one side of the pit. And in the middle of the pit, I'm getting, well, this just came out in September from the middle of the pit. And on the other side of the pit, we're getting the smaller clusters like this.
And
Now,
that,
from higher up, when I was benching back a couple years ago, a smoky tabby. All right, smoky's by radiation, right? Isn't that what everybody's always says? All right.
bless you.
So how did just the one tabby become radiated? Everything else is clear quartz around it. But the one smoky tabby in the center. It's the only one I've ever found. I can't explain it. I don't know. Maybe somebody else can explain it, but I can't explain it.
Did Mike say?
I haven't shown it to Mike yet. I'll show it to him when he comes out to the house next.
So then, do you have white, smoky, and amethyst in your area?
Yeah.
Yeah. All crystal.
Yes.
And what other minerals are there?
That's pretty much it. Quartz.
Really, no mica, no feldspar, nothing?
Well, there's block felt. There's big in the granite masses. There's feldspar, and but there's no microcline crystals or no feldspar crystals. It's just a mass of feldspar, and it's pink. It's granite. So because now I've cut down through the saprolitic layers and I'm down into the hard granite layers. Yeah. So,
That picture behind you, is that a bunch of amethyst that we're looking at here? Or just when I say, honey, what did I find? And you'll be like, nothing. Okay.
next one.
Well, it's a little more of the. Come on. So that's just more of the tarps and that water.
Do you know how the mine was found originally?
I do not. The legend has it that Thomas Edison was in the area looking for spodumene or some chemical for his thing, and somebody showed him an amethyst, and he supposedly turned Tiffany's onto it, but I found no documentation on that. That's just kind of urban legend, I think. But again, that's how they look when they come out.
How do you clean them?
Iron out. We soak them in iron out. I call them the tubs of anticipation or tubs of disappointment. Because you spend all day digging around, doing your very utmost best to get it out. And you extract this whole beautiful thing, and you're so proud. You got it out. And you take it up to the tubs at the camp, and you stick it in the iron out. Have your dinner, you go to bed. First thing in the morning, you turn the coffee on, you run out to check the tubs, and, well, sometimes it's not purple. Sometimes it's smoky. Sometimes it's clear. Sometimes it's milky. Or other times, that big, beautiful cluster you thought you had found was all only held together by mud. And when you pop the top off the tub, there's just pieces sitting in the bottom of the tub, and you're like, oh, all right. And that's disappointing, but whenever we find something, we always evaluate if there's damage on it, whether we caused that damage, whether it was caused by Mother Nature. And if it was caused by us, we evaluate why and how come. Because again, they have a hard life because again, they drop off and they hit the bottom of that pocket. And if there's no mud down there, you'll find a lot of them where the very tallest crystal drives me nuts. The very tallest crystal on a cluster will have a ding right in the tip of it because that was where it fell down and hit the ground. Everything else would be beautiful, but you have this one ding on the main big crystal right in the center, and it's just aggravating. And you know it's not something you did because it's covered over in oxidation, but there it is.
How hot do you have your iron out solution?
I have it in the sun. Yeah, I leave it in the sun in the summertime, so I let it get quite warm. An iron out doesn't work below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so just keep that in mind. The hotter the better it likes.
When you say iron out, what is it? Is it a chemical? What
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
a chemical that you use to clean the brown ring out of your toilet.
Okay.
You get it at Lowe's, Walmart, any hardware store type thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and you just mix it in until it doesn't dissolve into solution anymore. And if you do use iron out to clean, everything has its own time frame on how it likes to be cleaned. No two things, you can't say, okay, I put it in there for an hour and it'll be clean. I put it in there for 3 days, it'll be clean, or a week. Every specimen has its own time frame. And you check them and clean them every day and put them back in. Keep on going. But the golden rule is every day that you stick one of these or soak a mineral specimen in iron out, you should do 2 days of clean water.
Oh, sure.
And that way it'll leach out any of the iron out that is still on the specimen. Once you cleaned it and scrubbed it and let it dry, if there's still iron out present, it'll grow a little tiny white film on it. And that means it just needs to be soaked some more. So you'll soak it for some more days and then take it out, clean it, and let it dry. And if it still has a little white film, you put it back in the water.
What are you using to clean it after you take it out of the water?
Oh, a fabric gun. If anybody's been to the dry cleaner and they have those spot remover guns, yeah, that's what we use for really getting down into the cracks and stuff.
And James at the mine has no power or running water. So all this is being done cleaned without the benefit of what you can have at your home or somewhere that's set up a little more with electricity and water.
We have water.
Yes.
It's called ponds at the mine. They're great for swimming, great for bathing, and we use all the water for mineral cleaning. So
Here's
who
James's
needs potable
feet.
water, right?
Here's your feet. Isn't that your feet?
This is that specimen that went to the Albion Organ Museum. This is the tube that it was in the back of right here. This is me hanging out of that tube. And you can see the rock overhang that jets up over that. So yeah, and I'm not all the way in the back of that tube either. But that's why I wouldn't go in there though any further than, I felt safe, because again, it's just, at least somebody would know where to point.
Not funny.
So with that overhang, so you were cleaning out and you overhang and you found that you began to find the pocket and then you kept going and going and going?
Yeah.
And you found that one?
Yeah.
Or you were just, otherwise, why would you make an overhang?
No, we were following the seam down, and we created that overhang because this was a seam that ran down along this whole line right here. And you see a pocket over here, and then there's a pocket right here, and then there's another big pocket that went back into here. But those are open voids, so all of a sudden you don't have an overhang when you start. But all of a sudden there's a big open void that you can crawl into. Well, guess what? You now got a great big overhang.
Is everything there clay or is there a matrix that the crystals are?
No, we've gotten down to the matrix layer where we're getting stuff out on matrix now.
And what's the matrix, what kind of rock is that?
Granite, yeah. Yeah, that's some hard rock. But yeah, but that you can see the overhang there. That is just, it's just crazy. And again, that's the hole. So it took me 14 months to carve this all off and take that all the way back to where that specimen sat. So, yeah, jackhammer, pry bars, bottle jacks. Yeah, and I use does anybody know what a microblaster is? Yeah, I use a microblaster. It's a 5/16 diameter dynamite. It's like a big giant firecracker. Since 9/11, it's the biggest explosive you can buy without being an explosive license carrier. But you can stack those things, if you get it a long drill bit, you can stack those things like 5 high, and you can throw some rock. In fact, that's what I used on those. I drilled into these and blew those up.
So what does the seam look like? Is that like granite you're looking at? Like When you used to say that to me, I think of like, a pants seam or something, so.
Really, I don't have that video. If I had that video, it'd be
Probably have them on my phone. Oh,
no, pull the other one up. That's me and Ollie got it.
no. Come on.
So right here, you can see a horizontal seam run in this picture right here. Yeah.
And do you always find something at the end of that seam?
You will not, no. No, you don't always find something. I spent weeks and weeks and weeks digging, have found nothing. That's like the pocket I hit in September. I named it the prom queen pocket. Because it gave me a little feel, gave me a little sniff, but it never put out. until it finally did. So hence the name prom queen pocket.
And she's living at our home, so. Where do you want me to go next?
We try to name most of our pockets, give them a funny name or a good name. Like the specimen that went to Alvin Norwood Museum, we named that one Poseidon because it lived in the dark, underwater by itself. It ruled the darkness, it ruled the water, so we named that one Poseidon. So there's your crystal right there.
Oops.
That's the one.
So how big
Oh
is
no,
it?
that's not it. Is that one? No, it's close to that one. Yeah.
What are these up here? Anything?
Oh, that's a wide angle picture I was trying to do with camera.
Oh, okay. What do you want me to open up next?
How wide is the range that you're looking at? Is it just, are you prospecting out way beyond where you're now?
No. The area we're working is smaller than this room. Yeah. And again, this is over the Easter egg side of the seam. You just pull them out there like eggs. I mean, just one egg after another. It's pretty crazy. Two of your members came down to visit me. I don't know, Doris and Caitlin, young girl Caitlin and their mom Doris came to visit me last year and stayed with me and collected. And I had to tell them, and they saw a snake too, even though it was March. Like when I break into a pocket, I'm pretty sure that there's no critters living in it. Because I'm hopefully, unless there's a back door that I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that it's critter free. But overnight, I've created a whole new condominium complex.
Yeah.
So the next day, there could be anything in there, from snakes to frogs to snapping turtles, salamanders. So it's not a pleasant feeling to reach into the back of a pocket, grab something, and go, uh-oh.
Snapping turtle.
What is that I just grabbed a hold of? It's alive, and what was it? You know, and anybody familiar with snapping turtles?
Oh, yeah.
All right, what's the back of a snapping turtle shell? Yeah, but what's the shape in the back of a snapping turtle shell? Points, right? So you're in there feeling these points, thinking you're feeling a crystal until you move over and find the tail, and you're like, oh crap, got me a snapping turtle.
Well, at least you didn't feel the head.
Right, exactly. So my golden rule is when I grab something, snapper turtle, snake, frog, whatever animal's in the hole, if I grab a hold of it, I am not letting go of it because it didn't bite me right away, so I have it in a good spot. And I will take that and I will wrench that animal out and look at it as I throw it. I'm just saying, I mean, I hope there's no animal activists that'll be mad at me. I'm not gonna pull something out and go, oh, hey. But, I do try to relocate the black snakes and the snapping turtles and regular turtles and frogs and whatnot. Cottonmouths and rattlesnakes and copperheads, they die on sight.
I think the gentleman back here had a question.
Yeah, before you bought the mine, when you were out in the woods digging, what were you finding that convinced you to go all the way?
Oh, we were finding amethyst, we were finding crystals. Yeah.
So, it was productive, just digging around in there.
Well, it was, yeah. It was, and again, it was a day dig site. The guy that owned it, he charged you $20 a day to go and dig, and he didn't care what you did. He didn't have any interest in rocks. He's like, no, nobody ever paid me for no damn rock. But they'll certainly give me $20 to go dig rocks yourself, and that's all he cared about.
And you gotta remember, James was there for like 3 months before he purchased it, so he wasn't that one-day digger who maybe didn't hit anything, or he saw what was there.
Not only that, but since it was open to the public, right? When does most public show up? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Well, guess who's there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? So I can watch what you were doing and where you were exploring and where you were digging and where you were digging and what you found, and you go home. I'm not going home. We had a guy come back. He hadn't come back in a couple weeks. He comes back, and he comes over to the hole. He goes, "Where's my hole that I was working?" I said, "We encumbered it." He's like, "What?" I said, "Well, we kind of encumbered it. It's now part of our hole." So it has been truly a joy of a lifetime, and see, there's another one. See, there's some more matrix too. See, that's getting, you can see how these are little tiny druzy quartz points. I mean, they're not any bigger than that, you know, and the same diameter. So that's why they break off and fall when it decays. But those, now that I'm getting into the harder rock, it's not decayed, so I'm getting them on where they're still attached to the matrix, which is a lot of fun.
What were they pulling out when you first came there, the shapes of them? What was it known for? Pineapples, right?
Pineapple, yeah. It was known for this. People, because again, it's decayed granite, it's decayed alluvial layer. So people would dig down in the alluvial decayed layer, and they would find decayed pockets, and they would pull out these beautiful little pineapples. But if you come to the mine and look out in the woods, it looks like a World War I battlefield, because it's just cratered where people have dug and dug and dug out through the woods. That's why I say I discount the top 6 feet, because it's just there's just holes everywhere. But that means they were finding something, right?
So this formation is very unique to the real mine, or do you see it other places?
No, we have pretty much uniqueness to our, like, you can take one of our pieces. He's got a piece from Due West back there. They're very similar, but you can tell there's a difference. There's a color difference. There's a banding difference in the Due West stuff than our stuff.
And where's that located?
Ours is Iron Station, North Carolina. Due West is South Carolina.
South.
Otis, Amos Cunningham.
About 150 miles.
Right.
So
Yeah,
what-
and Jackson Crossroads, similar, but it's not the same. And you can pretty much pick out where each one of these is from when you look at them side by side. Yeah, they're similar, but there's subtle differences that are unique to each location.
And what about the line from Maine down, if you follow it?
So if you take a straight edge, and line up Jackson Crossroads, Due West, Diamond Hill, Real Mine, Scufflin Acres in Virginia, and all up that line, if you put a straight raise, it runs all the way to Maine. The whole line of Amethyst runs all the way to Maine. It's just further north you go, the more developed it is, so it's all been built over or hidden. So, yeah, see, that's the one that was in the ground there for 14 months once I found it. Well,
That's the
You said
inside of the
your
boat.
line and what other line of the line?
oh, it's Jackson Crossroads is the furthest that point south, and then Stowe, Maine is the furthest point north.
This gentleman had a question.
What are we looking at there? Is that the outside or the inside of the boat?
That's the inside of the pocket. That's it. That tube that you saw with the overhang, my feet sticking out. This is the very back of that tube. You can see that all the rock has been removed. This is almost before it came, just before it came out. All that overhang is gone. All that rock is gone. And now we are. You can see the saw marks right here. So we have cut this rock all the way back to plan our final cuts. But that's how much of that rock we have removed, because that was at the back of that pocket. Now it's only 6 inches back there.
So then what do you do? You go with the chainsaw and kind of
Yeah.
cut it out?
Yeah.
Just protect it on the bottom? So
We pack it with foam. Yeah, old furniture cushions and whatnot. Yeah, we'll pack those underneath the pocket, in the pocket, and then just leave it. Yeah.
And the cut doesn't vibrate things too much?
No, that thing is just a smooth. Oh my God, it is so smooth.
Is that some of the cut there? you can see?
Yeah, these are the cuts. See, that's me. See, this is where we've taken. I'm looking. This is the saw cuts where I've cut these blocks off to get back in there, and this is me because I cut the back of the pocket with this piece here that I had just taken out.
And your head is.
And the only way I could look in there was to do that so I could look back into the pocket so that I could know where I could make my next cut to make sure I wasn't cutting through what I was trying to save.
Dude, it looks like you cut your head off.
Right, oh, yeah. But no, but see the front of that pocket, see right there, that's full of foam. That's full of seat cushions. So when I took this piece out back here with the saw and cut that out, and cut it out over here, I wanted to look back in there and see exactly where I was at.
So that piece never fell out of the top?
No?
And that's also good with the foam there. If it does, you have a little
Right,
something
that's
for
why the foam was
cushion.
there.
Yeah.
Just in case it did detach. And that's why I bought this saw right here, just to get that specimen. I mean, because there was just, and the reason I was attacking it was in like a granite sarcophagus, for God's sakes. I mean, it was just, it's part of the phrase that we call it FU rock. You know, 'cause I mean, you take a 20-pound sledgehammer and pound on that stuff, man, it's sending missiles out at you, little slivers of granite. Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, see, that's me hanging upside down. I had followed a seam down, and the only way to look into that pocket was to hang upside down. I wedged my knees in the seam here and lowered myself upside down so that I could look up into that pocket.
Who took the picture?
Ah, a friend of mine.
Maybe you should get him.
How much chiropractic? Supposed to be a good friend.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a very good friend, yeah.
And that's the water hose, so he doesn't drown.
Yeah, so that's the sun. See, that's the water. That's the discharge. That's the suction hose for the water pump. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's me hanging upside down, looking into a pocket.
Makes you appreciate those crystals on the table, doesn't it?
Well, if people only knew, people think you just walk on. Oh look. Oh look.
I do that.
But here's what I was looking at when I was looking in that hole. You see that? You see that
Tongue.
cluster? So yeah, so that's what I was looking at when I was looking in that hole. But
That's amazing.
Kyra, I know you just gotta stay agile.
I guess so. We gotta wrap up here in
Yeah.
just a minute. Is that okay with you, James?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions that they haven't asked, they'd like to ask?
What was the name of the mine in Maine again?
In me.
It's, well, Deer Hill or Stowe.
Okay. It's,
Do you
you draw a line and see where it crosses
Yeah.
parallel.
Do you tighten up the chain on the chainsaw more? or you
Oh,
cut-
yeah. No, I leave it loose so it doesn't bind up. Yeah.
Is this you here at the bottom of the Poseidon?
Yeah, that's when we were working our way back in there. That's part of the overhang right there. Yeah. Yeah, all that's gone. All that rock is gone.
Amethyst, what do you do with it?
Do what?
What do you do with the amethyst after you take it out of the mine?
Find good homes for it. Family, friends, and institutions. Yeah.
You don't take it, have it shot out or do any kind of lapidary stuff?
Small necklace. It's a self-defense weapon too.
Well, it's funny. I don't know how many of y'all remember squash blossoms?
Oh,
From
yes.
back in the 70s, big turquoise squash blossoms.
They still make them.
Friend of mine, a dealer at the time, Richard Heck, he was selling those really nice St. Joe calcites back in the day. This lady, I was standing there with him, and this lady had this beautiful squash blossom on. And she bent over the table to look at the crystal. And that thing swung out and hit the tip of that calcite crystal just perfectly and dink. Oh, no. Cleaved the tip of it right off. So I'm very conscious when I bend over with that I put my hand on my chest to make sure it's not a pendulum.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
Thank you, James.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Do you have any